My entitled family wants to take my baby and pretend I'm not the mother. They don't know what they've just started. One day, when I was 22, my mom suddenly sat me down and started talking to me like we'd been best friends forever. It was honestly pretty weird, especially because my family had always been so distant and cold towards me. Then my older sister came rushing down the stairs, loudly announcing that today was the big day, and that's when I knew something was definitely up. She sat next to me, acting all buddy-buddy too, as if she hadn't slept with 2 of my boyfriends in the past and openly hated my guts. She put her arm around me and told me that she knew about my infertility struggles and that she was willing to be a surrogate for my baby. "You're my baby sister. Your happiness is everything to me," she said, hugging me, acting like I had no choice but to say yes. All of this was extremely strange. My whole family had been nothing but nasty to me for my entire life, but the little girl inside me who still craved her family's love fought it. And at first, everything was great. My sister Emily told me I'd be the best mother ever, invited me to every appointment, accompanied me for baby shopping. I thought our relationship was turning around, but then her jokes started. She'd laugh and say stuff like, "Maybe I'll just keep the baby. Who knows?" My family thought it was hilarious, but I didn't like it. Yet whenever I brought it up, my parents brushed it off and said I was being oversensitive. Things kept getting weirder as time went on. Emily would call the baby her little miracle and post updates online like she was the mom. She started going to doctor's appointments without telling me and chose nursery colors without asking. I tried to speak up, but my parents shut me down every time. They told me to stop stressing Emily out. My husband Liam told me we should talk to her directly. But when we did, Emily burst into tears and blamed hormones. She apologized so convincingly we felt bad for even doubting her. But then came the baby shower, and that was peak Emily. She and my mom planned it together without giving me a say. Everyone celebrated Emily's bravery and generosity. I was invisible at my own baby shower. Liam squeezed my hand, whispering that we'd get through it. And then came the day Emily gave birth. Liam and I were ecstatic, holding hands, ready to be parents. But the second the nurse placed the baby in Emily's arms, her entire expression changed. Her face hardened. She looked at me and announced, "I've decided I'm keeping him, just for the next few days so he can rest with mama." My stomach dropped. Liam immediately began protesting, but my parents stepped forward, coldly telling us to stop being selfish. Liam and I fought them on it, but the hospital told us they weren't responsible for family matters. Days later, when Emily and my parents had gone home, they invited me and Liam over to talk. There, they laid everything out. They weren't just taking the baby for a few days. They were taking him indefinitely. Turns out they had prepared for months. They bragged openly about how they'd collected evidence of my supposed instability. Emily proudly showed me fabricated texts she'd created, making it look like I had harassed and threatened her during pregnancy. My parents waved around signed statements they'd written themselves, claiming I'd been emotionally abusive and dangerous for years. Emily even had a detailed fake diary she had kept, logging imaginary fights where I screamed and terrorized her. They told us they'd already shown everything to family and friends, painting me as the villain. Liam was furious, yelling at them to stop lying, but they just laughed at us. My mother smirked, saying no court would ever side with someone as unstable as me. After that night, something shifted inside me. Liam held me while I cried, but we decided enough was enough. We found the best family attorney we could afford, but instead of confronting my family again, we went silent. We quietly gathered our own evidence, real evidence. The day we presented our case in court, Emily and my parents looked shocked we even showed up, but as my attorney laid out our evidence, Emily's confidence melted. My parents began to shift nervously, and under questioning, Emily broke down. The threat of lying under oath was too much for her, as she admitted to making it all up. My parents actually freaked out at her for it, calling her a coward in front of the whole court. Upon seeing this, the judge gave my son to me and Liam basically on the spot, and Emily and my parents were told that because of what they just did, a criminal investigation is starting on them. I sat in the courtroom watching Emily's face crumble as the judge's words sank in. My parents gripped the edges of their chairs, knuckles white, while Liam's hand found mine under the table. The bailiff stepped forward to hand over the paperwork, and I signed with shaking fingers. My son was finally, legally mine. The drive home felt surreal. Liam kept checking the rearview mirror, making sure no one followed us. I held our baby against my chest, breathing in his sweet scent, counting his tiny fingers over and over. We'd installed a new car seat that morning, hopeful but not certain we'd need it. Now here we were, a real family at last. That first week we barely slept, not because of the baby, he was an angel, but because we kept expecting someone to knock on our door and take him away. Liam triple-checked the locks every night. I photographed every feeding, every diaper change, building evidence that we were good parents. The lawyer had warned us that Emily and my parents might try something desperate. 2 weeks passed in relative peace. We started to relax, establishing routines, learning our son's different cries. Then the phone calls began. The first one came at 3 a.m. I fumbled for my phone, heart racing, but when I answered, there was only breathing on the other end. Liam grabbed the phone and demanded to know who it was. The line went dead. The next night, same thing, and the next. We changed our number, but somehow the calls found us again. Always between 2 and 4 a.m. Always just breathing or sometimes a whispered word we couldn't quite catch. We reported it to the police, but without proof of who was calling, they couldn't do much. Then came the notes. The first one appeared under our door while we were sleeping. Liam found it when he went to get the morning paper. Written in block letters, "Some mothers aren't meant to be." My hands trembled as I read it. We'd moved to this apartment specifically because it had good security. How had someone gotten inside the building? More notes followed. "He deserves better. Mistakes have consequences. We're watching." Each one was vague enough to avoid being an outright threat, but the message was clear. Liam wanted to take them to the police immediately, but I hesitated. What if this gave Emily and my parents ammunition to say I was paranoid, unstable? Liam didn't wait for my permission. He installed security cameras the next day. One at our door, one in the hallway with the landlord's permission, one overlooking the parking lot. He spent hours reviewing footage, looking for whoever was leaving the notes. But the camera at our door kept mysteriously malfunctioning right around the time the notes appeared. The hallway camera showed shadowy figures, but they wore hoodies and kept their faces down. It was impossible to identify anyone. The stress began affecting everything. I jumped at every sound. Liam started working from home, afraid to leave us alone. We were prisoners in our own apartment, and that's when things escalated at Liam's job. His boss called him in for a meeting. Someone had sent an anonymous email accusing Liam of embezzling company funds. The accusations were detailed, citing specific dates and amounts. Liam had to provide bank statements, receipts, documentation for every transaction over the past year. His coworkers started treating him differently. Whispers followed him down hallways. The investigation dragged on for weeks, during which Liam was suspended without pay. We burned through our savings paying for formula and diapers while fighting to clear his name. Finally, the company's forensic accountant proved the allegations were fabricated. The email had been sent from a dummy account, bounced through multiple servers. Liam got his job back with an apology, but the damage was done. His reputation was tainted. Meanwhile, our social circle began to shift. Friends we'd had for years suddenly became distant. When I finally cornered my college roommate Sarah at the grocery store, she reluctantly admitted that Emily had been reaching out to people. "She's worried about you," Sarah said, not meeting my eyes. "She says you're not yourself, that you're paranoid, accusing your family of crazy things. She showed me texts where you threatened her." I pulled out my phone and showed Sarah my actual text history with Emily. Sarah's face went pale. "These aren't the messages she showed me," she whispered, but the damage was spreading. Emily had been systematic, reaching out to every mutual acquaintance with her fabricated evidence. Some believed me when I showed them the truth, but others remained suspicious. Why would Emily go to such lengths if there wasn't some truth to her concerns? The isolation was suffocating. Liam and I clung to each other and our son, but we were running on empty. Then came the night our baby got sick. He'd been fussy all day, which wasn't like him. By evening, he was vomiting and lethargic. We rushed to the emergency room, my mind racing through every terrible possibility. The doctors ran test after test. His symptoms were strange, not quite fitting any typical infant illness. They kept him overnight for observation, and by morning he was improving. The toxicology report showed traces of something that shouldn't have been in his system, but the levels were so low the doctors couldn't determine if it was intentional or environmental. They questioned us extensively about our home, our routines, what products we used. We went home and threw out everything: formula, baby food, lotions, soaps, replaced it all with new items that we kept locked in a cabinet. But 2 weeks later, it happened again. Same symptoms, same rush to the hospital, same inconclusive results. This time, a social worker got involved. She visited our home, interviewed us separately, observed us with our son. She found nothing concerning, but the investigation stayed open. I knew it was them. The timing was too perfect, the symptoms too specific, but knowing and proving were different things. That's when I decided to play a different game. At the next family gathering, a cousin's birthday party we couldn't avoid without raising questions, I let myself appear vulnerable. I sat in the corner, shoulders slumped, dark circles under my eyes prominently displayed. Emily approached, as I knew she would. She sat beside me, placing a hand on my shoulder with fake concern. "You look exhausted," she said. "This whole situation must be so hard on you." I let my voice crack. "I don't know how much more I can take. The calls, the notes, Liam's job, the baby getting sick. I feel like I'm going crazy." Emily's eyes lit up, though she tried to hide it. "Maybe you need help, professional help. I could recommend someone." "I just want it to stop," I whispered. "I want my son to be safe." "He would be safe with someone more stable," Emily said carefully. "Someone who could provide a better environment." I pulled out my phone to check the time, making sure the recording app was visible on the screen. Emily didn't notice, too focused on her performance. "You mean you?" She leaned in closer. "I'm just saying, all of this stress you're under, the harassment, the job troubles, the baby getting sick, it could all stop. You could have peace. All you'd have to do is admit you're not ready to be a mother. And if I don't?" Emily's mask slipped for just a moment. "Well, things might get worse before they get better. These things have a way of escalating, you know? Next time the baby gets sick, it might be more serious. Next time Liam has trouble at work, he might not get his job back. And those notes, they could become more direct." I forced myself to stay calm, to keep playing the part. "You're behind all of it." She smiled then, a cold, satisfied smile. "Behind what?" "I'm just observing patterns. Though I have to admit, whoever's doing it is quite clever. The phone calls from burner phones, the notes with no fingerprints, the anonymous email about Liam, all untraceable. Even making the baby sick with just enough of something to cause symptoms but not enough to prove intent. It's almost admirable." "Mom and Dad know about this." Emily laughed. "Know about it? Where do you think I learned to be so thorough? Mom's the one who suggested the social media campaign with your friends. Dad had the connections to make Liam's work situation happen. We're a family. We work together." I stared at her, letting tears fall. "Why? Why go through all this?" "Because you stole my baby," Emily hissed, her composure finally cracking. "I carried him. I gave birth to him. He's mine. The court made a mistake, but we're going to fix it. One way or another, you're going to admit you're an unfit mother, and I'm going to get my son back." I stood up slowly, pulling my phone from my pocket. Emily's face went white as she saw the recording app still running. "You recorded me?" "Every word," I said. She lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. "Delete that right now." "No, I'll deny everything. I'll say you edited it, that you tricked me. Maybe. But Mom and Dad won't be able to coordinate their stories once the police start asking questions, especially once they analyze the handwriting on those notes, trace the phone calls, subpoena Dad's connections at Liam's company." Emily's face cycled through emotions: rage, fear, desperation. "You can't prove anything. We were too careful. You just proved it for me," I said, holding up my phone. "You detailed every crime you committed: harassment, stalking, cyberstalking, fraud, attempted poisoning of an infant, conspiracy. Should I keep going?" She started crying then, real tears this time. "I just wanted my baby back. You don't understand what it's like, carrying a child and then having them taken away. He was never yours," I said firmly. "You agreed to be a surrogate. You signed papers. You made a commitment. And then you tried to steal my child and destroy my life when you couldn't have him." The party had gone quiet around us. Our cousin stood frozen by her birthday cake, candles still unlit. My parents pushed through the crowd, their faces masks of fury when they saw my phone. "What did you do?" my mother snarled at Emily. "She tricked me. She was recording." "You idiot," my father cut her off. "You absolute idiot." Their reaction told me everything. They weren't upset about the crimes. They were upset Emily had gotten caught. I backed toward the door where Liam waited with our son. "This recording goes to my lawyer tonight," I announced, "and then to the police. I suggest you all get your stories straight." We left then, walking out of that toxic family gathering for what I hoped would be the last time. In the car, Liam reached over and squeezed my hand. "You did it," he said. "You got them." But I knew it wasn't over. Not yet. The next few weeks were a blur of police interviews, lawyer meetings, and court hearings. Emily tried to recant, claiming I'd coerced her confession, but the recording was clear. The investigation uncovered more evidence: the burner phones purchased with Emily's credit card, the connection between my father and Liam's accuser, my mother's emails to our friends with the fabricated screenshots. The detective assigned to our case was thorough but cautious. She explained that while Emily's recorded confession was damning, building a solid case would take time. We needed to document everything meticulously. Meanwhile, Emily and my parents were free to continue their lives, which terrified me. The first sign of their new strategy came through Benjamin, my father's golf buddy who worked at the local bank. Liam discovered it when his debit card was declined at the grocery store. Our checking account, which had contained our remaining savings, showed a zero balance. The bank claimed we'd authorized a large withdrawal, but we hadn't touched the money. Hours of phone calls revealed that someone had used sophisticated identity theft techniques to drain our account. The bank launched an investigation, but warned it could take weeks to resolve. We survived on credit cards while fighting to recover our funds. Then those started getting declined too. Someone had reported them as stolen, triggering immediate cancellations. Each time we called to fix one issue, another account would mysteriously develop problems. It was financial warfare, designed to break us without leaving clear fingerprints. Our landlord knocked on our door one evening, looking uncomfortable. He'd received an anonymous tip that we were running a substance operation from our apartment. He didn't believe it, he assured us, but his insurance company was pressuring him to investigate. We had to allow periodic inspections, adding another layer of stress to our daily lives. The baby's pediatrician called with concerns about missed appointments, except we hadn't missed any. Someone had been calling to cancel them, then reporting us as negligent parents. We started confirming every appointment multiple times, creating paper trails for everything. Our lives became an exhausting maze of documentation and verification. Then Catherine from Child Protective Services showed up. She was different from the previous social worker, younger, more aggressive. She'd received multiple reports about our parenting, she explained. The allegations were serious: medical neglect, financial instability, possible substance abuse. She needed to conduct a thorough investigation. Catherine's visits became a regular nightmare. She'd arrive unannounced, examining our home with critical eyes. She questioned why we had so many locks, why we were so paranoid about security. Our explanations about the harassment sounded hollow even to my own ears. How could I prove that my family was orchestrating all of this without sounding delusional? During one visit, Catherine found an empty prescription bottle in our bathroom trash. It was an old antibiotic from months ago, but she photographed it anyway. Another time, she noted that our baby seemed fussy, normal infant behavior, but in her report, it became a red flag. Every normal parenting moment was twisted into potential evidence against us. Liam's job situation deteriorated further. His cleared name meant nothing when new rumors started circulating. Co-workers whispered about his unstable wife, the family drama that followed him to work. Important clients began requesting different account managers. His boss, initially supportive, grew distant as the situation affected the company's reputation. We tried changing tactics. Instead of defending ourselves, we went on the offensive. Our lawyer filed harassment charges against Emily and my parents, but they'd learned from Emily's mistake. Every interaction now went through intermediaries. Every action had plausible deniability. They'd become ghosts, haunting our lives without leaving traces. The breaking point came during a routine trip to the park. I was pushing our son on the baby swings when I noticed a woman watching us intently. She approached with a concerned expression, introducing herself as a fellow mom. We chatted briefly before she casually mentioned she'd heard some troubling things about me from mutual acquaintances. My blood ran cold as she repeated stories Emily had been spreading, twisted versions of reality where I was the unstable one, where I'd stolen Emily's baby through manipulation. This stranger believed I was dangerous. How many others had heard these lies? How many believed them? We started recognizing the pattern. Emily and my parents had given up on legal channels. Instead, they were destroying our reputation, our finances, our stability. Death by 1,000 cuts. Each individual incident was small enough to seem like bad luck or coincidence. Together, they formed a coordinated campaign to break us. Liam suggested we move, start fresh somewhere new. But our finances were in shambles, our credit destroyed by the identity theft. No landlord would rent to us with our current financial profile. We were trapped, exactly as my family intended. One night, exhausted after another sleepless stretch, I made a decision. If they wanted to play dirty, I could play smarter. I created anonymous social media accounts and began my own campaign. Not lies, but truth. Screenshots of Emily's fabricated evidence, recordings of her confession, documentation of the harassment we'd endured. The response was immediate. Emily's carefully crafted image began to crack. Her friends started asking questions. Some of Sarah's mutual friends reached out, apologizing for believing the lies. My parents' country club acquaintances whispered about the scandal. For the first time, they faced consequences for their actions. But cornered animals are dangerous. The harassment escalated. Our car tires were slashed, all four on the same night. Security footage showed a figure in dark clothing, face obscured. The police took a report, but without clear identification, they couldn't act. We replaced the tires only to find them slashed again a week later. Strange charges appeared on our credit reports, applications for loans we never made, addresses we'd never lived at. Each dispute took hours of phone calls, mountains of paperwork. While we fought one fire, 3 more would spring up. It was exhausting, relentless, designed to wear us down. Catherine's investigation intensified. She'd received new reports, she said, about our erratic behavior and financial crimes. The identity theft we'd reported was twisted into evidence of our instability. Why would anyone target us so extensively unless we'd done something to deserve it? Her questions became accusations, her visits interrogations. Then came the night our power was cut. Not an outage. Someone had called the utility company, claiming to be Liam, and requested disconnection. We spent hours on the phone trying to restore service while our baby cried in the dark. The utility company required extensive verification, treating us like potential fraudsters. Each attack was precisely calculated, legal enough to avoid criminal charges, devastating enough to destabilize our lives. We documented everything, but the paper trail led nowhere. The perpetrators used public computers, burner phones, fake identities. My family had learned from their mistakes, operating through layers of deception. Our son developed a persistent rash that wouldn't respond to treatment. The pediatrician ran tests, finding trace amounts of an uncommon allergen in his system. We tested everything in our home, finding nothing. But the rash returned whenever we used any products, even new ones straight from sealed packages. Someone was contaminating our supplies, but we couldn't prove how or when. Liam's company finally had enough. The constant drama, the worried clients, the time he missed dealing with our crises, it was affecting their bottom line. They offered him a choice: take an extended unpaid leave to sort out his personal issues, or face termination. We couldn't afford either option, but Liam chose the leave, hoping to salvage his career eventually. Without income, our situation spiraled. We applied for assistance but were denied. Someone had submitted falsified documents showing we had hidden assets. Every avenue we tried was blocked by invisible hands. My family's influence reached further than we'd imagined. imagined, their connections opening doors we didn't even know existed. The social media campaign I'd started backfired. Emily and my parents painted me as a cyberbully, harassing a grieving woman who'd given up her baby. They hired a reputation management firm to bury the truth under layers of counter-narrative. For every person who saw our evidence, 10 more saw their version of events. We were drowning, and Catherine knew it. Her reports grew more damning with each visit. Our financial instability, the mysterious illnesses, the harassment we claimed to suffer, it all painted a picture of an unsuitable home environment. She started mentioning foster care, temporary solutions while we stabilized our situation. That's when I knew we were losing. Despite the recording, despite the evidence, despite the truth, my family was winning through sheer persistence. They'd turned our lives into a war of attrition, and we were running out of resources to fight back. Late one night, as I held our son while Liam tried to dispute yet another fraudulent charge, I made a decision. We couldn't win playing defense. We needed to change the game entirely. But first, we had to survive Catherine's next visit, scheduled for the following morning. She'd hinted it might be her last before making her recommendation. I looked at Liam, exhausted but still fighting, and knew we had one chance left, one opportunity to turn everything around. It would require risk, careful planning, and perfect execution. But what choice did we have? Our son's future hung in the balance, and I'd rather risk everything than lose him to the family that had tormented me my entire life. The morning arrived too quickly. Catherine knocked at precisely 9 a.m., clipboard in hand, expression professionally neutral. But I saw something else in her eyes, determination. She'd already made up her mind. This visit was just a formality before she recommended removing our son from our home. As I opened the door, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Last chance. Give him back voluntarily, or we take him anyway. I deleted it and smiled at Catherine, inviting her in. The real battle was about to begin. Catherine stepped inside, her eyes scanning our apartment with practiced efficiency. I noticed her gaze lingering on the new locks, the security camera by the door, the way Liam positioned himself protectively near our son's playpen. She made notes on her clipboard without speaking. Our son gurgled happily from his bouncer, oblivious to the tension. Catherine approached him, checking his appearance, his alertness, the cleanliness of his clothes. She lifted him carefully, examining his weight, his muscle tone. I forced myself to stay calm while she inspected my baby like evidence in a case. She set him back down and turned to us. Her questions came rapid fire. Why had we missed the pediatrician appointment last Tuesday? We hadn't. Someone had canceled it. Did we have proof? The receptionist couldn't confirm who called. Why were our utilities shut off? Identity theft. Could we prove that? The investigation was ongoing. Why had multiple concerned citizens reported us? We didn't know. Did we have enemies? I bit my tongue to keep from mentioning my family. Catherine documented our answers with skeptical expressions. She photographed our medication cabinet, our refrigerator contents, our son's nursery. She asked about our finances, our support system, our mental health. Each answer seemed to confirm her preconceptions rather than challenge them. The visit stretched for 2 hours. When Catherine finally prepared to leave, she paused at the door. She'd be submitting her report within 48 hours, she informed us. We should prepare for the possibility of temporary placement while the investigation continued. The words hit like physical blows. After she left, Liam and I sat in stunned silence. We had 2 days before potentially losing our son. 2 days to find a solution when every avenue seemed blocked. That's when I remembered something. A detail from Emily's recorded confession that I'd overlooked in the chaos. I pulled out my phone and played the recording again. There it was. Emily mentioning specific dates, specific actions. She'd been careless in her arrogance, providing a timeline we could verify. If we could match her confession to actual events, create a comprehensive timeline, maybe we could finally prove the pattern of harassment. We worked through the night, organizing everything. Bank statements showing the suspicious withdrawals, phone records documenting the harassment calls, medical records from our son's mysterious illnesses, screenshots of Emily's social media posts, the canceled appointments, the utility shutoffs, the employment issues, everything Emily had inadvertently confessed to orchestrating. By morning, we had a 60-page document meticulously linking Emily's recorded statements to documented events. But we needed more. We needed witnesses, people who could corroborate the pattern. I started making calls. Sarah was first. After seeing the truth about Emily's lies, she'd been questioning everything. She agreed to provide a statement about Emily's campaign to turn our friends against us. She even had screenshots of messages Emily had sent, trying to recruit her in the harassment. Next was our former neighbor, Mrs. Chen. She'd seen the figure in dark clothing leaving notes at our door. She'd been too frightened to get involved before, but learning about the custody threat changed her mind. She had dates, times, even a partial license plate from a car she'd seen idling outside our building. Liam reached out to his coworkers. 2 came forward with information about the source of the embezzlement rumors. Emails traced back to IP addresses associated with my father's business. They'd saved the messages, suspicious of their timing and content. The pediatrician's office manager discovered something interesting when we pressed her to check their phone logs. The appointment cancellations had come from the same number each time, a number that, when reverse searched, belonged to a phone registered to my mother's assistant. We compiled everything into a comprehensive package: the recording, the timeline, the witness statements, the technical evidence. Our lawyer worked through the night preparing emergency motions. But would it be enough? Catherine's report was due in hours. The next morning, we arrived at family court before it opened. Our lawyer had filed for an emergency hearing, citing new evidence of systematic harassment endangering our child. The judge agreed to see us that afternoon, just hours before Catherine's deadline. The courtroom filled quickly. Emily and my parents arrived with their legal team, looking confident despite the emergency nature of the hearing. Catherine sat in the gallery, her report presumably complete and ready to submit. Our future hinged on the next few hours. Our lawyer presented the evidence methodically. The recording played through the courtroom speakers, Emily's voice confessing to each act of harassment. The timeline showed how each incident corresponded to Emily's statements. Witness affidavits confirmed the pattern. Technical evidence traced the harassment back to my family. Emily's lawyer tried to object, claiming the recording was obtained illegally, that the evidence was circumstantial. But the judge had heard enough. She ordered Catherine to delay her report pending further investigation. She issued immediate restraining orders against Emily and my parents. She referred the case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution, but my family wasn't finished. As we left the courthouse, my father approached, despite the restraining order. His face was purple with rage. He hissed threats about ruining us completely, about using every connection he had. Security intervened before he could get closer, but his message was clear. This wasn't over. That night, our apartment building's fire alarm went off at 2 a.m. Everyone evacuated, standing in the cold while firefighters searched for the source. They found nothing. Someone had pulled the alarm maliciously. The next night, it happened again, and the next. Other tenants began complaining, questioning whether we were the target. Our car wouldn't start one morning. The mechanic found sugar in the gas tank. Security footage showed nothing useful. Whoever did it had avoided the cameras. We fixed it, only to find our tires slashed again days later. Insurance was beginning to question the frequent claims. Then came the letters to Liam's employer. Not emails this time. Physical letters from concerned citizens, questioning whether someone involved in such drama should be working with clients. His boss called him in, frustrated. The leave of absence became permanent termination. They couldn't afford the controversy. Child Protective Services received new reports. Not from Catherine. She'd actually become somewhat sympathetic after seeing our evidence. But anonymous callers claimed we were coaching our son, that we were paranoid, that we were creating an unstable environment. New investigators arrived, starting the process over again. The criminal case against my family progressed slowly. Their lawyers filed motion after motion, delaying proceedings. They claimed entrapment, mental distress, misunderstanding. The prosecutor warned us it could take years to reach trial. Meanwhile, the harassment continued through proxies we couldn't identify. We were hemorrhaging money on legal fees. Without Liam's income, we burned through our emergency fund. We applied for jobs, but somehow potential employers always learned about our situation. References were contacted with anonymous warnings. Background checks flagged concerns that didn't exist. One night, exhausted and defeated, I found Liam writing lists of distant cities where we might start over, places where my family's influence couldn't reach. But moving required money we didn't have, jobs we couldn't secure, references we couldn't provide. We were trapped in a nightmare of their making. That's when an unexpected ally emerged. The prosecutor handling our case called with interesting news. Emily had made a mistake. In her fury over the restraining order, she'd contacted other family members, trying to recruit them for her campaign. One cousin, horrified by what she heard, had recorded the conversation and brought it to the authorities. This new evidence was damning. Emily explicitly discussed ways to circumvent the restraining order, to continue the harassment through third parties. She named names, outlined strategies, revealed the network they'd built to destroy us. The prosecutor fast-tracked additional charges, but Emily's arrest only escalated things. My parents liquidated assets, hiring the best defense attorneys money could buy. They launched a media campaign, portraying themselves as grieving grandparents denied access to their grandchild. They found sympathetic reporters who ran stories questioning our fitness as parents. The public attention brought new problems. Strangers recognized us from the news stories. Some offered support, but others believed my family's version. We received messages calling us cruel, selfish, unstable. Our son's daycare asked us to find other arrangements after parents complained about their children being near that family. Then came the breakthrough we desperately needed. The FBI had been monitoring my father's business dealings for unrelated reasons. Our case had flagged their attention, particularly the financial crimes, the identity theft, the fraudulent transactions. Federal charges carried real weight, harder for expensive lawyers to dismiss. The federal investigation uncovered more than we'd imagined. My father had used his business connections to access our financial records illegally. He'd paid bribes for information, committed wire fraud in the harassment campaign. The charges multiplied. Suddenly, he was facing serious prison time. My mother cracked under the pressure. Facing her own charges and watching her husband's empire crumble, she reached out through her lawyer. She wanted a deal. She'd testify about the conspiracy in exchange for leniency. The prosecutor was interested but wanted more. Full cooperation, complete disclosure of everyone involved. Emily, feeling betrayed by our mother's willingness to cooperate, made her own deal. She'd plead guilty to lesser charges, serve minimal time, but had to allocate fully, admit everything, provide evidence, testify if needed. The house of cards was collapsing. The unraveling happened fast. Armed with Emily and my mother's cooperation, authorities arrested over a dozen people who'd participated in the harassment. My father's golf buddy Benjamin faced federal banking charges. The reputation management firm lost its license. Every thread they pulled revealed more corruption. My father refused to cooperate, maintaining his innocence even as evidence mounted. His trial became a spectacle. Former friends testified about bribes they'd received. Business associates distanced themselves. His company's stock plummeted. The man who'd terrorized us was finally facing consequences. During the trials, we lived in limbo. The restraining orders held, but we still jumped at unexpected noises. We still checked locks obsessively. We still documented everything. The trauma didn't disappear with the arrests. Our son, now walking, had no idea why mama and daddy were always so watchful. Emily's sentencing came first. She got 18 months in minimum security, 3 years probation. She had to pay restitution for the financial crimes. The judge ordered no contact with us for 10 years. She cried as they led her away, but I felt no sympathy. She'd tried to steal my child and destroy our lives. My mother received probation and house arrest. Her cooperation had earned leniency, but she'd lost everything else. Her reputation, her social standing, her marriage. She lived alone in a small apartment, her assets frozen or seized. The woman who'd smirked while threatening me was broken. My father's trial ended with a 15-year sentence. Wire fraud, conspiracy, bribery, identity theft, the charges had piled up. He'd maintained his arrogance until the verdict, then collapsed. His empire liquidated to pay fines and restitution. The man who'd controlled everything lost it all. With the trials over, we could finally breathe. Liam found new employment with a company that admired his perseverance through adversity. We moved to a modest house in a quiet neighborhood where nobody knew our story. Our son started preschool, making friends, living normally. The restitution payments helped stabilize us financially. We weren't wealthy, but we weren't drowning anymore. We could afford groceries without checking our account balance. We could sleep without fearing midnight calls. We could plan for our son's future. Catherine, the CPS worker who'd almost taken our son, sent a letter of apology. She'd been deceived by the sophisticated campaign against us. She'd learned from the experience, she wrote, and would be more thorough in future investigations. I appreciated the gesture, but couldn't forget how close we'd come to losing everything. Some relationships couldn't be repaired. Friends who'd believed Emily's lies stayed distant, too embarrassed or stubborn to reconcile. Family members split between supporting us or my parents. Holidays became small affairs with just the three of us, but we'd learned who truly cared about us. The trauma lingered in unexpected ways. I still recorded important conversations. Liam still photographed documents obsessively. We both went to therapy, working through the paranoia and trust issues. Recovery story wasn't linear. Some days were harder than others. Our son grew without knowing his extended family. We'd tell him the truth someday, when he was old enough to understand. For now, he knew only love and stability. He had parents who'd fought impossible odds to keep him safe. That was enough. 5 years later, we received a letter from Emily. She'd completed her sentence, undergone therapy, wanted to apologize. She understood if we didn't respond, she wrote, but needed us to know she was sorry. I read it once and threw it away. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt. My mother attempted contact too, through lawyers and intermediaries. She was sick, she claimed, wanted to make amends before it was too late. Liam and I discussed it at length but decided against it. She'd had chances to be family when it mattered. Now we protected our peace. My father served his time in federal prison, his health declining, his fortune gone. Former associates occasionally reached out with updates we hadn't asked for. He blamed us for his downfall, they said, showed no remorse. I wasn't surprised. Narcissists rarely change. We built our own family traditions, Sunday pancakes and park visits, holiday movies and handmade decorations, birthday parties with friends who'd become our chosen family. We created the warm, loving environment I'd craved as a child but never received. The legal documents from our ordeal filled 2 boxes in our closet, evidence of the war we'd survived. Sometimes I considered burning them, releasing the past, but they served as reminders of our strength, our resilience, our determination to protect our son. They showed what we'd overcome. Our story spread through legal circles as a cautionary tale about family court manipulation. Lawyers referenced our case when arguing for stronger harassment protections. Legislators cited it when proposing bills about custodial interference. Our pain had created precedent that might protect others. I sometimes wondered what life would have been like if Emily had simply honored the surrogacy agreement, if my parents had shown genuine love instead of manipulation, if family had meant support instead of sabotage. But those were fantasies. Reality was messier, harder, but ultimately ours to shape. Liam and I grew stronger through the trials. Many marriages wouldn't have survived such sustained assault, but we'd clung to each other when everything else crumbled. We'd fought side by side for our family. That bond, forged in crisis, proved unbreakable in peace. Our son thrived despite the rocky start. He was bright, curious, kind, everything Emily claimed he'd be better off without us to provide. When he laughed, I heard victory over everyone who'd tried to silence us. When he hugged us, I felt the family they'd tried to steal. The scars remained. Trust came slowly. New friendships faced scrutiny. Official documents triggered anxiety. Phone calls from unknown numbers made my heart race. But we'd learned to live with the echoes of trauma while building something beautiful despite it. Justice hadn't come quickly or completely. The years of harassment had stolen time, money, peace we'd never recover. But we'd kept our son. We'd exposed the truth. We'd survived what was designed to destroy us. That was its own victory. Looking back, I understood why my family had been so confident they'd win. They had money, connections, experience manipulating others. They'd counted on us crumbling under sustained pressure. They'd underestimated one thing, a mother's determination to protect her child. The restraining orders eventually expired, but the distance remained. We lived in the same city, but different worlds. Occasionally, I'd hear updates through mutual acquaintances. Emily worked retail, lived quietly. My mother rarely left her apartment. My father would die in prison. Their choices had consequences they'd never anticipated. We chose forgiveness for our own peace, not theirs. Holding on to anger poisoned us, not them. But forgiveness didn't mean reconciliation. It meant releasing the hold they'd had on our emotions. It meant choosing joy despite their efforts to steal it. Our son started asking questions as he grew older. Why didn't he have grandparents like his friends? Why was our family so small? We answered honestly, but age appropriately. Some people weren't safe to be around, we explained. Family was about love, not blood. The financial recovery took years. Restitution helped, but rebuilding credit, savings, stability required patience. We celebrated small victories, paid off debts, emergency funds rebuilt, college savings started. Every milestone felt monumental after losing everything. Professionally, Liam thrived in his new career. His story of perseverance impressed employers who valued character over connections. He advanced quickly, his integrity proven through trials his colleagues couldn't imagine. The job he'd lost became a blessing, pushing him toward better opportunities. I returned to work once our son started school. The employment gap raised questions, but I'd learned to control my narrative. I spoke of family challenges overcome, skills developed through adversity. Employers recognized strength in survival. My career bloomed in unexpected directions. We made peace with our small circle. Quality over quantity became our motto. The friends who'd stood by us through hell were family now. Their children called us aunt and uncle. We celebrated holidays together, created traditions, built the village we'd needed. Sometimes I drove past my childhood home, now sold to strangers. The memories felt distant, like scenes from someone else's life. That desperate girl craving family love was gone. In her place stood a woman who'd learned love's true meaning through fighting for it. The universe had strange ways of delivering justice. Emily's life unraveled beyond legal consequences. Friends distanced themselves. Relationships failed. She lived with the knowledge that she'd destroyed her family for jealousy. Prison was temporary. Those consequences lasted forever. My mother's isolation was self-imposed but complete. Former society friends wanted nothing to do with scandal. Family members chose sides. She'd sacrificed everything for control and ended up with nothing. The golden years she'd imagined were spent alone with her choices. My father's business empire became a cautionary tale in corporate ethics classes. Former partners wrote books distancing themselves. His legacy was corruption exposed, connections severed, reputation destroyed. He'd built his identity on power and lost it all. We focused on building rather than dwelling. Our son joined sports teams, made honor roll, developed passions. We attended every game, every concert, every event. We were the parents I'd wished for. Present, supportive, unconditionally loving. He never doubted his worth. The therapy continued sporadically. Triggers arose unexpectedly. A phrase, a situation, a reminder of vulnerability. But we'd developed tools, coping strategies, support systems. Healing wasn't linear, but it was constant. We chose growth over stagnation. New challenges arose unrelated to family drama, health scares, job stresses, normal life complications. But after surviving coordinated destruction, regular problems felt manageable. We'd been tested by fire and emerged stronger. Nothing felt insurmountable anymore. Our son eventually learned the full truth through court documents he found online. The conversation was difficult but necessary. He struggled to understand how family could be so cruel. We emphasized that their actions reflected their character character, not our worth. He chose to maintain distance from them, not from anger, but from wisdom. He recognized toxicity and chose self-protection. We'd raised him to value peace over obligation, safety over tradition. His clarity validated every choice we'd made. Life settled into rhythms we'd fought to achieve. Morning coffees and evening walks, weekend adventures and quiet nights, inside jokes and shared dreams. The extraordinary became ordinary, exactly what we'd wanted. Peace was its own reward. We occasionally received updates about legal precedents our case had set. Lawyers contacted us about similar situations, seeking advice. We shared our documentation freely, hoping to help others navigate similar hells. Our pain had purpose if it protected even one family. The anniversary of winning custody became our private holiday, not publicly celebrated, but quietly acknowledged. The day we'd almost lost everything but fought back. The day justice prevailed despite overwhelming odds. The day our real life began. I sometimes wrote letters to my past self, the scared woman holding her newborn while her sister demanded him back. I told her she was stronger than she knew, that justice would come slowly but surely, that the family she'd build would be worth every battle. Those boxes of legal documents gathered dust, their contents no longer daily weapons but historical artifacts, proof of a war won through persistence, truth, and refusing to surrender, evidence that love could triumph over manipulation. That chosen family surpassed blood relations. Our son graduated high school with honors, surrounded by friends and chosen family. Emily, my mother, and my father were absent, but their absence no longer felt like loss. We'd filled those spaces with people who'd earned their place through love, not obligation. College applications asked about challenges overcome. Our son wrote about resilience learned through watching his parents fight impossible odds, about understanding that family meant choice, not chance, about knowing his worth because we'd proved it through action. The financial restitution finally ended, the last payment arriving with little fanfare. We'd long since stabilized, but the symbolic closure mattered. Every debt paid, every crime acknowledged, every consequence delivered. The ledger was finally balanced. We sold the house that held too many memories of fear and moved somewhere fresh. New neighbors knew us only as the friendly couple with the accomplished son. Our past was ours to share or keep private. We chose privacy, preferring present peace to past drama. Liam and I renewed our vows on our 20th anniversary. The ceremony was small, attended by those who'd weathered the storm with us. We promised again to stand together against any challenge. We'd already proved those weren't empty words. Our son announced his engagement to a wonderful partner who'd heard our story and admired our strength. They wanted the kind of marriage we'd built, tested, proven, unbreakable. We welcomed them into our small but mighty family with joy. The wedding invitation list was notably short on one side. Our son felt no obligation to invite those who'd tried to destroy us. His partner's large family embraced us, filling gaps we'd learned to accept. Love multiplied in unexpected ways. Grandparenthood arrived with our son's first child. We held that baby with tears, remembering another infant we'd almost lost. This child would know only love, safety, and stability. The cycle of dysfunction ended with us. That was our greatest victory. My father died in prison, alone and unrepentant. We learned through legal channels, felt nothing but relief. One threat permanently ended. Emily and my mother still lived, but might as well have been ghosts. Their power over us had ended long ago. We established trust funds for our grandchildren, not just financial, but emotional. Stories of resilience, lessons in boundaries, examples of chosen family. They'd inherit strength along with stability. They'd know their worth was never negotiable. The therapy sessions spaced further apart. Triggers faded. Trust rebuilt slowly but surely. We'd never be naive again, but we'd learn to live without constant vigilance. Peace was possible after trauma. Joy could coexist with scars. Our story became family legend, told carefully to new members who earned the right to hear it, not for sympathy, but for understanding. Why we valued loyalty so highly. Why we chose family so carefully. Why we celebrated peace so gratefully. I kept one photo from before everything changed. Emily holding my newborn son in the hospital, her expression already shifting to possession. A reminder of how quickly love could become manipulation, how family could become enemy, how vigilance protected what mattered. But mostly, we focused forward, on grandchildren's laughter and family dinners, on quiet mornings and busy days, on the life we'd built from ashes of what others tried to burn. We'd won not through revenge, but through resilience. The boxes of legal documents would someday be discarded, their purpose served. The restraining orders expired, the criminals punished, the precedents set. But the family we'd protected and built would continue. That was justice enough. Our son raised his children with the lessons we'd taught. That love was action, not words. That family was chosen, not imposed. That boundaries were healthy, not cruel. That fighting for what mattered was always worth it. In quiet moments, I marveled at our survival. Statistical odds had favored our destruction. Money, connections, and coordinated cruelty should have won. But we'd had something more powerful. Determination born from love and truth as our foundation. The extended family we'd lost had been replaced tenfold. Friends who'd become siblings, mentors who'd become parents, chosen relatives who showed up consistently. We'd built the family we'd deserved all along. It just looked different than expected. Emily aged alone, her dreams of motherhood sacrificed to jealousy. My mother withered in isolation, her manipulations costing everything. My father's legacy was cautionary tales and legal precedents. They'd gained nothing and lost everything. Natural consequences delivered justice. We chose gratitude over bitterness. Every peaceful morning was a gift. Every milestone celebrated with genuine family was precious. Every year free from harassment was valued. We'd learned not to take safety for granted. Our grandchildren grew knowing their worth was inherent, not earned. That love multiplied when given freely. That chosen family often surpassed blood relations. That strength came from facing challenges together. They inherited wisdom along with DNA. The ripples of our case continued spreading. Laws changed, procedures improved. Other families found protection through precedents we'd painfully set. Our suffering had purpose beyond our own survival. That brought meaning to the chaos. I wrote our story for our descendants, documenting truth before time softened edges. Future generations would know their heritage included fighters who'd refused to surrender, who'd chosen love over fear, who'd built beauty from ashes. The woman who'd sat frozen while her sister demanded her baby back was unrecognizable now. Trauma had transformed into strength. Desperation had become determination. The family who'd tried to break me had instead forged someone unbreakable. Liam and I grew old together, our bond deepened by shared battles. We'd faced the worst humans could do and emerged victorious. Every challenge afterward seemed manageable negligible by comparison. We'd been tested and proven worthy. Our son's success reflected the stability we'd fought to provide. His children thrived in the safety we'd secured. Generations benefited from boundaries we'd established. The cycle of dysfunction ended because we'd refused to perpetuate it. In final years, I felt only peace. No regrets about relationships severed, no guilt about protection chosen, no doubt about decisions made. We'd done what was necessary to save our family. History had proven us right. The legal documents finally went to archives, their personal purpose complete. Future researchers would study our case, learning about family court manipulation and harassment campaigns. Our pain would educate and protect others. Legacy achieved through survival. Emily died alone, her obituary sparse and attendance minimal. My mother followed, her funeral attended by paid staff. Their endings reflected lives spent pursuing control over connection. They'd lost everything that mattered by trying to take what wasn't theirs. We were surrounded by chosen family when our time came. Children, grandchildren, and friends who'd become more. We'd built what we'd been denied. Unconditional love, genuine support, real family. That was our greatest victory. The boy they'd tried to steal became a man who understood love's true meaning, who chose partners wisely and friends carefully, who protected his children fiercely but fairly, who built the family we'd fought to preserve. Our story ended not with dramatic confrontation, but with quiet triumph. Evil had been defeated through patience and truth. Love had won through persistence and sacrifice. Family had been redefined through choice and commitment. The scared young woman holding her newborn while her sister schemed had become a grandmother surrounded by genuine love. The journey between those moments included battles no one should face, but we'd faced them together and won. In the end, they'd made us stronger. Their hatred had taught us love's value. Their manipulation had shown us truth's power. Their attempts at destruction had built something indestructible. We'd won by refusing to become them. The family we'd protected flourished across generations. The family we'd lost faded into cautionary tales. Justice came not through revenge, but through living well despite their efforts. Through choosing love over fear every single day. Our legacy was simple. We'd fought for our family and won. We'd refused to let evil triumph. We'd built beauty from ashes. We'd chosen love over blood. We'd proved that family meant protection, not possession. And in the end, that was everything.